After the second, third, and fourth movie, making these films is so exhausting, and it destroys Keanu. Physically and emotionally, Iwanek recently told Collider. By the end, he's always like, I can't do this again, and we agree with him. The guy is just a shell of himself because he just goes off and goes for it. The latest John Wick might be the most entertaining chapter yet and one of the best action films in recent memory. It required the creative minds behind the assassin to up the ante in every way imaginable, while also laying the groundwork for the future of the Wick universe, with or without Keanu Reeves. At the start of Chapter 4, the king gets John suited up for battle, and the High Table takes devastating revenge against Winston for helping John for starters. Winston is excommunicated, and the hotel is demolished. John heads to Morocco to dispatch a High Table overlord called the Elder and his minions, then goes to Osaka to the Osaka Continental Hotel, another High Table base where he learns from its manager, who is his friend, what happened to Winston and the New York hotel. John vows to kill them all. There are certain things one expects from a John Wick movie, and near the top of the list is the inclusion of dogs. Ever since the first John Wick had the audacity to open with the devastating death of the eponymous hitman's puppy, a gift from Wick's late wife meant to open his heart to love again, the franchise has worked overtime to reassure the audience that this is a pro-dog enterprise. But after John Wick, Chapter 3 Parabellum incorporated a pair of imposing Belgian Malinois in a breathtaking Morocco-set action sequence. It was always going to be a challenge to raise the bar for what dogs would be capable of doing in future films. Naturally, John Wick Chapter 4 was up to the task. The movie introduces a new character, Mr. Nobody, a self-described tracker who's waiting for the bounty on Wick's head to climb before he goes in for the kill, and who is accompanied in every scene by his loyal canine companion. At this point in the series, the question isn't whether Mr. Nobody's very good dog will find itself in the middle of a fight scene, but rather when and how. But for all the ways a film production is a controlled environment, especially one that's frequently executing high-level stunts, a dog has a mind of its own. Our lead dog, her name's Britta, for whatever reason. She was a crotch biter, Chapter 4 director Chad Stahelski says. We had all these other gags planned, and she's like, nope. Right for the crotch. We're like, okay, I guess that's our character. We're doing crotch biting in a strange way. A dog becoming the Daniel Day-Lewis of attacking someone's crotch epitomizes the anything-goes philosophy behind making a John Wick movie. For Stahelski, who's directed all 4 films, these kinds of incidental moments on set are a feature, not a bug, and should always be embraced in the creative process. A quick reference that I think everybody gets is the Jackie Chan of it all, the filmmaker explains. To that end, when franchise star Keanu Reeves learned how to use nunchucks for one of Chapter 4's action sequences, it led to an improvised attack that would get Britta's paw of approval. Keanu fakes a move to the head, then hits the guy in the groin, Stahelski says with a chuckle. I'm like, okay, I guess we're groin hitters today with the nunchucks. It's always interesting. Make no mistake, Chapter 4 has a lot on its plate outside of testicular violence. As with any action-oriented blockbuster, there's an audience expectation that future sequels will up the ante. But before we continue, John Wick Chapter 4, the most SHOCKING controversies the movie has created. Subscribe to our channel Celeb Splash so that you don't miss any future updates. But for John Wick, in particular, that's easier said than done. While other tentpoles can utilize special effects to help take the action to new heights, sending a Pontiac Fiero into outer space, the John Wick movies are defined by their commitment to practical stunt work and complex fight choreography. Just as Mission Impossible sequels hinge on Tom Cruise fulfilling his latest death wish for our entertainment, John Wick is all about Reeves adding to his skill set as one of cinema's most iconic assassins, whether he's wielding nunchucks or drifting through the streets of Paris in a banged-up muscle car. If there's a limit to how much one man can actually do, then Chapter 4 certainly takes its title character and, by extension, Reeves to the brink. Chapter 4 is bigger and bolder than its predecessors in every respect. A globe-trotting, heart-stopping epic already being hailed by some critics as one of the best action movie ever made. But while the previous two John Wick entries ended on tantalizing cliffhangers, Chapter 4 is less a continuation than a culmination of Wick's blood soaked journey. In that spirit, Chapter 4 was filmed across 5 countries: Jordan, France, Germany, Japan, and the United States in service of 14 major action set pieces, quadrupling what was achieved in any of the previous films. Approaching this filmmaking challenge was not unlike Wick's odyssey across the franchise: absurd, daunting, and thrilling in equal measure. We know not to take it too seriously, but that doesn't mean we don't take our jobs very seriously, Stahelski says. Obviously, when you watch a guy fall down 100 steps, yeah, you can't help but smile and go, what the fuck are we doing? One of the curiosities of the John Wick series is that, as an entirely original creation dependent on no prior properties, it has nonetheless given rise to an alluring and self-perpetuating mythology of its own. That wicked authority is called the High Table. It dispenses orders to kill on pain of being killed, ratifies contracts for murder, and brokers the deals for bounty hunters. It commands John to kill, and it sets him up to be killed, but it also sets the tone of the movie. The High Table exemplifies a superlight of secret societies with elaborate rites, deeply rooted aristocracies, a flaunting of mind-bending wealth, and the executive ruthlessness of a transnational shadow government that has the power to wreak havoc in public, with impunity. It also has the power of information and enormous database on its registered killers. It apparently goes back centuries, and a terrifyingly comprehensive surveillance network that tracks the hunters and the hunted during their mortal maneuvers and discloses their whereabouts to devastating effect. Its agents hide in plain sight at, for instance, a hotel called the New York Continental in Manhattan's financial district. Another high table agent on John's team, the Bowery King, disguises his crew of spies as unhoused people in a shelter that he runs. The high table itself reveals its enduring traditions in the anachronistic equipment and furnishings of its central intelligence office, complete with card files, blackboards, rubber stamps, and switchboards. The venerable sect of hired killers can trace its lineage to a few authorized families, an aristocracy of blood that pulls the death dealers out of the grubby streets and endows their gruesome trade with a fox dignity. Their rigorous code of conduct dominates the movies, and the franchise's overall tone and import. The intricate set of seemingly nonsensical rules plays the role of military discipline and order, but it also signifies with a politicized wink at the rights and manners of high society, the implacable law of violence, which pretensions to refinement both embody and conceal. Chapter 4 takes off from the third installment, which concluded with John killing a high table assassin at the New York Continental, with Winston's help, and then teaming up with the Bowery King to fight against the High Table. Picking up from the events of Parabellum, in which Wick narrowly survives falling from the New York Continental rooftop after being shot by his once ally Winston, Chapter 4 begins with the Baba Yaga hell-bent on getting revenge against those who've wronged him.